I did this, so was it a lot making inside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, she starts showing a little, she's a little.
Is this their first baby?
No, second. She's got a little boy. I think he's gonna be 3. Is she having a girl?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she already has a little boy, yeah.
Very cool.
Okay.
She's usually relaxed.
Cindy Mills would be here. Cindy Mills probably isn't coming, or she'd be here, I think.
Yeah, she'd probably be here. Well, I guess we can get started. It's 8:05. Well, my name's Alicia, project coordinator with the Forsyth Drug Council. I'm filling in for Rachel. I guess that's my only announcement, that she can't travel right now, so, if you guys need anything, I think most of you have my email. If not, I can get it to you. Is there one more person? Oh, Cindy.
Oh, Cindy did. Oh, good.
There we go. But yeah, I mean, I'll pass around. I don't have the iPad today,
Yeah.
so
I don't like that anyway.
we're doing it. We like this anyway.
Always flops
And-
around.
So yeah, we'll just go around and do introductions, your name, organization, if you have anything that you want to promote or, tell us about, then we can go from there. I'll start.
I'm Ainsley Miller. I am a substance abuse counselor for the Insight program, but I'm contracted inside of North Forsyth High School and work with students that are regarding substance prevention.
Emily Adams, also work for the Insight program, and I'm over at the academy. Counseling over there.
I'm a former middle school teacher, but I'm here because I'm a parent of a daughter who died because of a girl.
Miriam Shawkat, I'm a
Substance abuse counselor at County
Jeremy Merritt, I'm with the Vita Community Partners.
Marty Rivera, I'm a parent coach with Equanimity Parent Coaching and a co-chair of the Drug Awareness Council's Parent Coordinator.
Katie Leverson, I'm the executive director of the Child Advocacy Center here for
I'm Cindy Mills, on the board, founder.
And does everything. Susan Tanner, stepmom of 2 adult addicts, and ironically, my grandson's in town from Texas, who's the son of my alcoholic stepdaughter, so I'm happy he's in town with us for a few days. And I do mentoring at local schools, and we have a Monday night moms group, me and Julie, that need help out.
I'm Julie Cordry. I'm a mom of a son who battles addiction, and I'm also, my husband and I lead Prodigal Child Ministries, a nonprofit that serves parents who have kids with mental health and addiction issues. And Susan's on our board.
Oh, that's right.
And then Zoom, I guess we could start with, I can't even read that. N Smallwood or Nancy, would you want to introduce yourself?
Smallwood, I'm the grants manager for Forsyth County.
Ashley? I think it's muted.
I can go ahead and jump in. I'm Misa Pace, and I'm the grant coordinator here with Forsyth County.
Joy? Or
Hi, Joy Walker, Forsyth County Grant Coordinator.
Manasi?
My name is Manasi. I'm on the youth council.
Adam? Angie?
Hi, I'm Angie Buchanan, and I'm a parent of addict.
And then Rachel, did you want to say hi?
Yes, hello everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
That was Ashley Dickerson that got cut off. She is the co-chair of also our parent committee. It's good to see you on here, Ashley. I haven't seen you in a while. I wish I could be there. I am just here listening from afar, just sitting around waiting for this baby to be born. So I'll keep you guys posted on when she gets here, but I'm excited to hear Marty speak and what she has to say for parents. So thanks everybody for being here. Miss you.
Thanks, Rachel. Well, yeah, so today we have Marty Revita. She's going to do a presentation, and I guess if you have questions throughout, feel free to ask, and we can kind of have a discussion afterwards. So,
Maybe Kirsten can introduce herself.
oh yeah,
Sure. Okay, I'm Kirsten Banks with Therapeutic Recovery Network and Parent Recovery Network. I'm very excited to hear Marty speak. Thank you.
I'm Belle Nomura. I am a parent from Insight.
Well, come up to the table. Our parents are just as important as everybody else.
All right, Rachel, can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, I'm just going to stand from here to run through the presentation. As I was introduced, I'm Marty Revita. I'm a parent coach with Equanimity Parent Coaching. And I'm also the co-chair of the Forsyth County's Drug Awareness Council's Parent Partners Committee with my dear friend Ashley Dickerson. So today I'm going to be speaking regarding prevention through connection. And I want to open it up with what I usually open with, which just sharing a little bit about our journey. So I come to this through my lived experience of a mom of a young man who was challenged with substance use disorder. We came across this when he was about 16 years old. That's where our journey started. It was a journey of fear, frustration, a roller coaster of emotions and a roller coaster of struggles with relapses, different facilities. And ultimately, our journey ended up at a crossroads. After about 9 months of him trying to stay sober and work a program, he ultimately got kicked out of his local recovery program. The result of that was us having to tell our barely 17-year-old son that we loved him and we understood that he was struggling, but we couldn't continue to allow him to slowly kill himself by continuing to use. So his options were to either choose to go to a local or an inpatient program in Nashville, or he could pack a bag of clothes and he could hit the road. Sorry, gets me every time. It still sits with me. It lives within my soul. It was just, that was my, you hear rock bottom. That was our rock bottom. It was his rock bottom. He had nowhere else to go. He had burned all the bridges and he didn't want to be homeless at 17. So he welcomed the opportunity to go to Nashville and go to that inpatient program. And that kind of leads to where I stand in front of you today, because on the drive back home from dropping our son off, the day that COVID hit and the world was shut down. So add that on top of the fun. Not only that, but my husband and I, we've been struggling for alongside our son. It was a parallel process. We were trying so hard to control and just help him. We were loving him to death. And we knew that we had to make changes. We had to change the home environment to help him come home to a healthier place. And so we participated in our local recovery program. We studied every book there was. If somebody told us to read something, listen to something, participate in something, that's what we were doing. If we weren't working, we were working on us. And so what happened, and what again brought me here is we picked him up, we brought him home. And after him settling in, he's getting ready to have some of his friends from his local sobriety program come by. And he's like, you guys have changed. And we did, because we knew we had to. We had an environment, a home environment that was just not healthy, not just for our son, but for us as a couple and us as just people, individuals. So that's why I came here today, to share on the power of connection. And as some of you may have heard, the opposite of addiction is connection, right? So if the opposite of addiction is connection, then wouldn't be prevention also be connection, right? So that's what we'll be covering today in this presentation. Let's see if I can figure this out. There we go. So today we'll be covering emotional regulation, communication, supportive relationships, and encouraging through the use of emotional regulation and attuned communication, the ability to make healthy decisions, for youth to make healthy decisions. You'll learn practical science-informed tools to strengthen family and community connection, and also to promote long-term well-being and resilience in youth and the family. So why does connection matter? Again, opposite of addiction is connection. So why wouldn't it be for prevention? Prevention isn't just about saying no. Trust me, tried that, didn't work. So it's about building connection that makes others, especially youth, feel safe, valued, and capable of saying yes to a future and making their own decisions of what works for them. So the first part of building connection that I want to touch on today is emotional regulation. And I looked for some quotes that really kind of spoke to me for each one of these. So a parent's calm is the emotional anchor a child needs in their storm. And what I'll speak from my own personal experience was I wasn't calm. I could not hold space for my son. I could not provide him emotional regulation because I was all over the place myself. And that's not something that I came to naturally. It was not something that was modeled for me. So as part of my work, that's what I had to do for myself, is I had to learn how to be emotionally regulated, to not be whipped around with my son's challenges left and right. And so I worked on me, and I worked on building my emotional regulation. And by doing that, I was able to hold space for him. And while he was in his inpatient program, he had learned the same tools as well. So by me being able to self-regulate, I was able to also model it for him. So we were able to grow together within that, with that emotional regulation. And it also is not just for families that are challenged with addiction. It's just with any family. It's just healthy engagement of being able to model for our children emotional regulation, and that we're not going to be going up and down on the thermometer scale, that we can actually hold space. Because providing that to our youth, when youth have a safe person, a safe adult to emotionally regulate, and to identify emotions and to be able to manage those emotions, they're less likely to self-medicate with substances and then escape and numb out, like with cell phones and movies or video games. They're more resilient in the face of stress, peer pressure, and failure. And they're better equipped to take a pause, reflect, and not make knee-jerk decisions. you know, those instantaneous, I'm gonna do this, oh wait, there's consequences, right? So the next tool is attuned communication. Again, wasn't my strong point. So attunement is not about getting it right all the time. It's about repair, showing up, and staying connected. This is by Dr. Daniel Siegel, who is a well-known doctor of attunement. And again, for me, it wasn't my strong point. I envy those parents who can sit and just listen to their child and hold space for them, but that just wasn't me. And so I had to learn to just be present. And one of my defects is that I'm a perfectionist. I had to do it right. I wanted to be the perfect mom. I wanted to sit and be able to listen and attune and regulate and help manage. But what I had to do is I just had to learn to sit with my mouth closed and my ears open and just listen. I had to learn to reflect back what he was saying. I had to truly stay engaged and hear what he was saying and reflect back to him so he heard and knew that I was listening, and validate his emotions. I can tell you that up until the point that we hit, that the addiction hit our home, I lived in a world of regulation, or not regulation, but we just don't feel that way. You can't feel those feelings. Don't get upset, because if you're upset, I'm upset. Again, back to the emotional regulation. I had to learn to hold space, listen to him, and just validate his emotions. And then by doing this, we create emotional safety and a desire to understand rather than respond. It's not our job to fix it. It's our job to listen and provide loving, nurturing guidance. But their decisions are ultimately theirs. And again, just through, from a prevention lens, again, if we provide our children space and we connect with them and we listen to them and we hold space and give them an opportunity to speak what's on their mind and heart, we're building that connection. Oh. Just a minute, my friends. I've lost my, okay. Next, let's talk about empowering youth and making decisions. Children become decision makers by making decisions. Imagine that. Not by being told what to do. Wholeheartedly guilty. I paved the path for my son. No need to be worried about it. I'll get you the best coach. I'll get you into those classes. I'll help do this for you. Isn't that what you want? Sure, Mom, right? If I'm gonna do that for him, why would he bother, right? So what we need to do and work on ourselves is to allow our children to make decisions, allow them the opportunity to skin their knees and make some minor wrong decisions, allow them to make age-appropriate decisions, encourage them to have critical thinking and accountability, and understand that their decisions will ultimately have some form of consequence. And the other thing is that the consequence could be a good consequence or a negative consequence. The beautiful thing about allowing our children to learn how to make decisions and build resilience is that they get to have their own wins. And by having those wins, it builds confidence and it builds resilience. Mistakes are an opportunity for learning and growth. We can support them with guidance, but there's no need for control. The ultimate reason that we need to control is for our fear of what's going to happen next. And that's our work, not theirs.
Wouldn't it be so beneficial if before kids got into a situation of panic and emotion, if these were the skills parents were putting in kids when they're 4 years old?
Yes,
5 years
absolutely,
old. Not
absolutely.
that it's too late, I'm not saying that, but it's hard sometimes to retrofit fit things when if you could get this to parents, you know, we live in a world of, because of social media, the helicopter parenting and the trying to keep up with this one and that one. And, you know, we get so caught up in lots of times, I mean, I'm talking about my grandkids, you know, trying to get kids to this on Monday night, this on Tuesday, this camp all day today, this one there, that just the basics, you know,
Yes.
of failure, you know, of letting a kid, instead of when a kid forgets their lunch, say, oh, I'm so sorry you forgot your lunch, but I can't leave work and get it. You're gonna have to figure this out.
Oh, yeah. It's like they're text the parents to get them out of school and you're like, it's like, no, we just don't, if we know it's not an emergency, we just like don't respond.
Yeah, but let them feel that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's value in failure.
But it's because of technology, like the immediate, they're used to the immediate response.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But again, and you know, that's one of the reasons that I made the decision to become a parent coach, is that that's my mission, is to hopefully get to parents in the early stages and to help work and to work with them so that they have this skill set to pass along to their children in a healthy way and to model it as they're younger, so that as they grow older, they have these tools already in place. But no, I completely agree. And you know, we don't know what we don't know, right? Like I said, from my family of origin, I learned that that's what you do. You make the decisions, that you get the orders. I got the orders of what I was going to do, and I executed, right? I didn't feel about it. I didn't make any of the decisions. My parents said, you're doing this, this, and this. And I was like, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. We don't live, it's rare, or at least from my perspective, to have families where the child actually has a voice in how they're going to do things and have the emotional regulation and attunement and confidence to be able to do that. Even if they are given the opportunity, a lot of them wane because they don't know how to make those decisions, right? You know, we get kids that go into college and they don't even know how to get their applications in and things of that nature. So yes, if we could get these tools to parents.
Retesting.
I'm sorry?
I blame it on that. It's because there's no failure. You
Yes,
just need
ma'am.
to keep taking that test over and over again.
Yeah.
I just hate it.
Yeah.
It got worse after COVID too.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it all contributes to mental health.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And again, it doesn't matter, it's whether it's substance use disorder, whether substances are involved, mental health is involved, or it's just basic, good, healthy, emotional growth and connection, not just within the parents and the families, but in the community as well. If we all do our work, imagine how great or how loving and open and communicative and healthy, mentally and physically healthy our communities could be.
Do you find it difficult, and I'm just speaking on the few times I've went to speak at things, it is very, when you're in this situation that's highly emotional, and there's the stigma that goes along with addiction, that parents feel blamed. You know, like they feel their own guilt. They feel like they're walking around with an X on their back. You know, the thing they love the most is not turning out the way that they had hoped. I mean, very few parents, I think, go into you know, thinking I'm gonna fail at this, or let me see how I can mess this up. And that you don't want the parent to feel guilt or shame, because a lot of parents don't do things wrong. You know, like I know that this is sometimes re-looking at, we can always, every one of us, be better. I can be better today than I was yesterday. But conveying that, do you ever find that's a difficult thing because parents are defensive? You know,
All the time,
Mhm.
absolutely. 99% of the time when I'm speaking to parents and their child is either having behavioral problems, struggling with substances, mental health, it is, there's shame. There's just horrible shame around it. And I failed and I did something wrong. But that's another reason that I come and speak here and I speak at other venues. Like I tell everyone, I'll talk to a brick wall if I have to eliminate the shame and stigma of mental health disorders and substance use disorders, or even behavioral issues.
And Marty, do you recommend the book that me and Julie have done a couple of times, The Prodigal Parent Process by Doug Weiss? That's a great book. Me and Julie know it by heart, I think.
Mhm.
Saying that it's not always the parent's fault. It's not, it's not your fault. That's a powerful book.
Yeah. Yes. No, and that's the whole thing. It's not our fault. That's, and it's not. And I try to reassure parents, it's not our fault. But what there are tools out there for us to help the emotional regulation. There are ways of us to show up differently, because our child is challenged with whatever their challenges are. And so, like our family made the decision, my husband and I made the decision that something had to change because the environment was not a healthy place for our son to heal and grow emotionally.
it's almost like a self-assessment, with each parent has to look at themselves.
Absolutely.
What needs changing. I mean, like, I know when a child is arrested or in drug court or in law enforcement care, they're told while under probation, the parents have to take out all the alcohol, anything that's in their home that might be a threat to the child. And unbelievable the number of children or, adults, but child adults that have to go to jail because the parent will not get rid of it in their home. Like when they come in and do the searches or whatever, the probate, to look to see, and that they can't, even make that, they're unwilling to change that part, even to help, because, they'll say, I'm not the one with the problem.
Yeah. And that's just slowly guiding people towards that. I've been running an online parent support group for a couple of years for Arch Academy in Nashville. And I get parents in the beginning, their kids in program, they're doing their work, but they're like, why do I have to show up? It's not my fault. I don't need to do anything. But they keep coming back, and they slowly learn that there are some dynamics and there are some slight changes that they may need to make, removing substances from their home to help support their loved ones who's struggling with it. Just simple little things like that. And then just showing up differently. And as they show up and as they learn, they slowly accept the change and work to build their own tools. Sometimes it never happens.
Yeah. And sadly, my situation is my stepkid's mom is an addict too. So she would give it to my stepkids. So it was her fault in a lot of ways.
Right.
So there are those situations too.
Yeah, and that's
anger me so much.
Yeah, and it's a real struggle. That's another thing with parents that I work with, and especially divorced couples. I need to tell I'm going to tell my ex to do this, this, and this, and I'm like,
Good luck.
good luck with that. That's again, that's where we take that's where we take the finger and we point it back at us and say, what's my part in this? What can I do about it? Because it's about the hula hoop. I can only have control of what's within my hula hoop. Anything outside of that, I'm just creating insanity. So continuing to just, but that's an evolution, right? We're always going to be looking outside of ourselves for a reason for this or that to happen, right? If someone, again, if my child changes, everything's going to be okay. If my child stays sober, all's good, right? Or my child gets the help that they need, or my husband isn't an a-hole anymore, right? No, we have to start taking that opportunity to look within ourselves and what we need to tweak. And maybe it's just letting go of some expectations. Right?
I don't disagree with anything that's being said. And I think about though, like maybe where some of that comes from. And I know, from personal experience about the guilt, the shame, and all the ways we can be defensive as a parent. And other people do blame parents. That is part of the reality too. I know when I stood up here at the mental health meeting and talked about my son, and everybody in the room said, what was the first thing you think? And they would say, what's wrong with those parents? It's exactly the first thing they think. So some of the defensiveness is coming from reality. And so I wonder sometimes if that like unwillingness to look inside is because then I would be proving those people right. Like everybody's saying it's my fault. And if I do something different, then that's me admitting it was my fault. That's not true.
Right.
But I wonder if that's where it comes from in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I went through the same thing. Actually, just earlier this year, I was down at the Capitol testifying against the increase in the medical marijuana percentage, the THC. And I sat there and I had two people sitting behind me after sharing my testimony, telling me behind my back, "You're a bad mom. You should do better."
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know what?
That's what people
If
Oh, yeah, when it comes to marijuana too.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Until it happens to them.
Exactly. And but again, that's back to me doing my work, right? It's me healing myself. It's me being willing to be open and vulnerable about our journey. And I'm not saying that I've done it perfectly, and I still struggle on a regular basis. But coming out and speaking about it, speaking openly about our journeys and our struggles, hopefully, if I can just reach one parent, it's worth it, right? So it's just about being open and not letting the stigma win. Yeah, but I completely, absolutely. It's really hard. There's a lot of judgmental people out there.
Do you know if the kindergarten teachers, even preschool teachers, try to help enforce parents, that it's okay for your child to fail? It's okay, let them do that. We're trying to build resiliency. Because I think a lot of times a parent will listen sometimes, but to a teacher or a teacher situation, I'm just thinking of ways we can get these skills you're talking about reinforced by a given group, just to help the child to increase that resiliency and strength within a child from an early age.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think that if we could get this in some form of curriculum as early as, elementary school, we could really help eliminate some of the challenges that we have later on in life. And again, my friends, it's about self-healing, right? It's not always just about the child, it's about us doing our work and our healing. And it's not pointing the finger at anyone, it's just repeating it and putting it out there and making it available. Because as parents struggle and they come up with it, what do I do with my child? And am I doing that right? And I think a lot of parents, I know I was, when I was a younger parent, I would take anything, you know? It's back to, you know, everybody has a copy of what do you expect when you're expecting, right? It's just we want the knowledge. So getting it out there and making it available and so I think, you know.
Daycare, needs to be in daycare, it needs to be in those divorce classes, I had to go to it myself.
Yeah.
Yes,
Instead of it
ma'am.
being just a nothing to check the box, it needs to be, you know, these are the skills, this is how you help your children.
And then like, I'm from Iowa, that's where I like grew up. And don't you think that I've noticed as I've lived and practiced here, that it seems to be also like, depends on like the area of the country, because I've noticed such a difference from where I grew up to like the way that the Southern families are. And like, I just see such a difference. So I think that also has to do with
difference,
it.
like-
Yeah.
What way?
Just the fact that like, it's like in the Midwest, it's very much about independence, you know, like almost to the other extreme, you know, and even now there, because I have like, you know, family still there. And here, it seems like it's hard to separate. There's more like, so that could be a positive, but when it comes to this, it's almost like you're educating the parents for the first time over something that's like cultural, you know, like where it's like, oh, well, we're supposed to all be together and like we all live on the same, you know, property or like, you know, and just kind of like the whole thing about, it is like, you know, we are supposed to be close and like they're not really supposed to be that independent. You know, there's like an expectation that they are supposed to, you know, still be here with the family and be doing, like, I guess it's like obligation, you know, like they are supposed to be like doing all this stuff for the family and all that stuff, you know?
Interdependence is one of Stephen Covey's 7 habits that's
Mhm.
very important, and
Mhm.
a lot of people don't reach that until maybe
Yeah.
some never reach that feeling of interdependence.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's a great segue into this section, which is supportive adult relationships. I think what you're speaking to there, Kristen, is that, you know, if families are on a farm which is typical of the Midwest and, you know, everybody lives closer together, you know, you're not always spending all your time with mom and dad. You could be spending time with the grandparents, cousins. It's just very family oriented. And having other family members and close friends who are safe adults who can help teach you how to emotionally regulate and are attuned just naturally, just by being connected and having those relationships. So, you know, having a large variety. I mean, we live in very nuclear family and we just stick together and, you know, maybe we go to church or we are part of a soccer group and things like that, but we're always moving, right? We're not really stopping and connecting and building relationships. Yeah, they're building a connection with a coach, and hopefully there might be a coach that's emotionally regulated and can find space for a child and provide that leadership. You know, statistics say if a child has just one, and it doesn't have to be the parent, but if they just have one adult that can show them a safe space and that can listen and allow them to share their you know, their struggles and be open and honest and provide support, they're less likely to turn to self-soothing activities. So, and then, you know, it's also providing guidance without judgment, helping youth weigh what the consequences may be. You know, hey, this is one of the tools I learned on our journey, is, you know, no judgment, right? And I, before I could really grasp being emotionally attuned or be able to attune to my son, Insight gave us this lovely tool of awesome, bummer, cool. And I used it quite a bit and I kind of still use it today. If I can't come back with an answer or it's something that I just really don't have a response for, and it's maybe not something that I'm considering really great. I use that just to provide, hey, I'm acknowledging you, but I'm not gonna lay judgment on you of the choices that you're making. Go give it a try, see what happens with that. Wonderful. Some of them turned out great, some of them didn't. The ones that didn't, those are his consequences. Those that did built confidence and self-esteem. And then modeling healthy coping and boundaries, reinforcing what safe feels like. That no is a complete sentence. How many kids really hear that, you know, and being able to say that, not just to us, but to others. And that's all about peer pressure. I'm not willing to let go of my mental sanity or my health or my happiness because of the choices other people are making. Being able to teach our children that there are boundaries and we don't have to accept unacceptable behavior. We've really touched a lot on this already because we have talked a bit about experimenting. And I'll be honest with you, my friends, I did not handle it well. I went off the deep end. As soon as we found out that our son was using, you can't talk to this person, you can only do this, you can only do that. I mean, it was just complete lockdown. We might as well just put a lock on his door, right? But that's not what our children that are experimenting need. They need us to emotionally regulate. They need us to hold space for them. They need us to open our ears and close our mouth. They need us to stay connected and stay calm. And they need us to ask, so how are you? How are you? What is making you feel the need to do this? There's no judgment here. Just let me know how I can help you, help yourself. And then it's all the basic of what we've already covered. Reflect back, avoid lecturing. Oh, I had plenty of lectures. I told my son how to fix his addiction, right? Not at all, not at all. Had to avoid doing that and giving him space to figure things out and let him know that I'm there to help him. And then set compassionate boundaries and that help them make the next right or wrong decision. Boundaries are amazing, and some of them don't even have to be spoken. They can just be for us and what we're willing to do or not do, right? But some of them we did need to speak so that our son understood that we were going to love him and allow him to make his next right or wrong decisions. While he was in recovery, or actually still to this day, he knows we hold boundaries. And as you're going to work a program, if you want any support from us now or ever in the future, it's work a program, stay sober, and fill your time with healthy choices, whether it's work, school, but focus on you and what's going to benefit you to be mentally and physically healthy. So practical tools to use today, name it to tame it. Help youth label emotions. We don't talk about emotions enough. I wish every home had an emotions wheel to help teach kids how to verbalize their emotions. I myself have to refer to one every once in a while because I'm not really sure. Am I angry? Am I sad? Is it fear? What is this? And by having that vocabulary, it helps us express it thoroughly and get it out there. And by naming it, we can tame it, we can manage it. Reflective listening builds trust and reduces conflict. I hear what you're saying. Tell me more about that. How are you feeling? Let me know. Share more. Pause before reacting. Respond with intention. Wasn't my strong suit. But I find myself very often still having to reach out to others. And that's one of the things I offer many parents that I work with. Pause before you respond to your child. If you feel like you're going to go off on your child by a decision that they made, whether it's substances or something else that just you feel is completely crazy, I say, call me, yell at me, get it out of your system and figure out why you're responding that way. Because 9 times out of 10 has nothing to do with the kid. It's just that our emotions are not regulated. We could be hungry, we could be angry, we could be tired, we could be anything. And 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with what is actually triggering the situation. Connection before correction. Lead with empathy, especially when they're struggling. They're awful. It's just nerve-wracking. But taking the time to really see what the root cause is, not the behavior that's on the outside, not the outside, but what is causing them, and asking, reaching out, attuning, trying to find out what's going on with them on the inside. Having rituals of connection. You know, we did regularly, but did we talk about emotions? We had dinner with each other every night. We went to church together every day. But we really didn't connect. We didn't attune. We didn't emotionally regulate. We just kind of joked around, didn't really get to the root of things. Kind of brushed over yeah, somebody was mean to me. Oh, well, that's okay. You'll be all right. So coming up with rituals where you can connect, daily walks, dinner together, talk about emotions, talk about feelings. Strength-based feedback, focus on effort and growth. Focus on the good things. What are they doing right? You know, maybe they make the decision to actually take the trash out, comb their hair, clean their room, who knows? But catch them doing good, not always focusing on the negative. And then community mentoring, expand their circle of care. Again, build a team, build of emotionally regulated adults who can be a safe place for your kid. I can speak to early in my son's recovery. I was still working at it. I was still struggling. I was still trying to learn how to be a better parent for him and for our family. And so, but luckily enough, there was another parent in the group that was really emotionally attuned, and he connected with her. And so that was a great mentor for him to have, to help him continue to work on his growth while I was still healing and growing myself.
Do you think, and I've never had a child in addiction, my dad was addicted to alcohol, but do you think that is realistic in the given moment where your child's come in or didn't come home all night, you open your wallet, you realize your credit card's gone, or the $200 you had has been stolen and you don't have any money for groceries? And is it really, are you able, oh, I'm going to be empathetic with him. He needed to buy more. He needed to go buy more opioids. So I'm going to be okay that he stole my money. I just don't think that in every situation, I just see it's very difficult for a parent with their, I mean, they've got younger mouths to feed. You know, they've got their own. I just think that it would be very, I'm not saying it's not right, but is it realistic? I mean, I just know. I mean, somebody violates and steals my money and does, and that's most of the time what occurs in addiction.
Yeah.
The reality is they become a person you don't know.
Exactly.
And you're looking at this child that you held as a baby and you fed the bottle to, and they're not that child anymore. And the disappointment, the emotions you're talking about. But I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do. I just don't know how a parent in the throes of it can be
Yeah.
expected. It's almost expecting too much of a parent.
It's hard, and again, it's back to us working on ourselves. And when those things happen, setting appropriate boundaries. I know that we did have situations like that. And that when those things happened, he was no longer allowed in the home. The door was locked, the code was changed. And he had to go sleep on somebody else's sofa for a few weeks until he figured that out.
Bring your own parents, like bring your own parent support person over. Like if it's like one of those intense moments, like maybe bring over your support person to like
And
help
talk through
talk
those
to them,
things.
you know?
Yeah,
To calm the
exactly.
situation.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Pick up that phone
Yeah.
and speak to someone in your tribe.
But Marty, you have to have a tribe to do that.
I'm
And
sorry?
I said, you have to have a tribe to do that. And in my situation, I didn't have a tribe. I had friends that didn't know how to support me. So I didn't have, so if you start this younger, where adults actually understand how to support each other, then you have that tribe built when you need it.
That's our Monday night group. I
Yeah,
mean, we
you
watch
have to
the
have a
moms
tribe.
come and we go, this is my safe place now. We can
Yeah.
watch them.
But that's because they're already in the club. I want to reach parents when they've got kindergartners. I want to teach them how to connect with each other and not have the shame. So when they do hit that wall, they have their friends who are well equipped to support them, even if they haven't experienced the same thing that we have. And that I think is the key to stamp out the stigma.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, you have to have that. Mhm. Yeah, like the minute people come in crisis, it's like, that's like the key. It changes everything.
my friend circle is 100% different than it was before my son came
right,
out with his addiction.
And it's going through the process of hitting what your bottom is.
And that's why parent recovery networks are so important.
Correct.
Because it is bringing that's the support parents need.
Exactly.
It completely changes it. Like the minute this parent goes and meets other parents, no matter what anyone else tells them, it doesn't matter. But the minute they go talk to this other parent that has been there, they come back like a different person in one time. And they're like, oh, I get what you were trying to tell me, you know? So, but I don't know, I mean, it's like, that's interesting about trying to get a tribe before something happens. Because I know that's interesting, because it's like, I wonder, you know, like, people don't get a tribe, like you're saying, until they hit that bottom.
Well, I say that because I do a lot of public speaking on this. I speak openly at work. Marty and I go to Gateway. We speak to other parents, but that's when they've already been initiated somewhat. I share it with anybody and everybody. I'm not ashamed of it at all. And every time I talk to somebody, everybody I talk to knows somebody who's struggling. It might be a neighbor, it might be a family member, it might be a niece or nephew. It's either directly or indirectly. But the more I share, they know now that I'm their safe place. So when they do hear somebody needs somebody, they send them to me. So, the more we openly share that, hey, we've got some experience in this area, then we become that tribe for the people who aren't here yet. Does that make sense?
Right, and or we're able to guide them to a tribe. We help them navigate that path.
I think a way to try that's young, because I have young kids, and I get exactly what you're talking about, because I have friends, and then I have the people who actually know what goes on with my kids. And that's because I'm a foster parent, and there's a tribe in that world. So foster parents get it. They may not be, even if they're, they're dealing with 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, they're not using necessarily, but they're dealing with some of the difficult behaviors that come along with that. So that might be a way to tap into, like, getting people connected at a younger age, tap into that.
And can I just make one more comment? Because I'm going to have to drop, but I think it was Cindy who was speaking on behalf of, getting this into like the kindergartner, the educational, the teachers teaching kids how to fail and it's okay and how to recover. My son's been in recovery for 3.5 years. And I will say that when he got sober, I said, oh my God, I've met the son I thought I raised, right? Because I had asked him to leave the home before. But he is a man who has done nothing but inspire me. He's become so much greater than what I can claim. He is an amazing young man who inspires me every day. He knows what his triggers are. He learned that through his own self-work. If we could only teach kids how to explore their emotions and then get parents to stay in their lane and actually give kids space to discuss emotions, it's not I was just such in a hurry all the time. I didn't want to hear it. If they were uncomfortable, I was uncomfortable. But I was always, I thought, a great mom. I was always there. So I think that what, Marty's talking about is that emotional connection is key. You can be connected to your kid and drowning them at the same time. And that's what I was doing.
Thanks, Ashley. So we're almost out of time. I'm just gonna skip this slide was resilience is built over time. Time takes time, my friends. We can learn new tools. We can build those connections. We can create attunement with our kids. We can start making that difference today. But it will take time for them to build that resilience. It'll take time for us to build that resilience. I'm not going to quiz you right now. But finally, I did want to share this slide. And I absolutely love this one by Peggy O'Mara. The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. So let's work on making that voice. Let's figure out ways to get that voice to be kind, loving, attuning, regulated, so that, like Cindy said, let's get them to a place where they're feeling and learning this and working with it at an earlier age, so that they can grow up in a healthier, in a mentally, physically healthier space. So I'm not going to ask if you have any questions because it's top of the hour. So thanks, everybody. I really appreciate your time and the conversation. It was great.
I guess, is there anything else?
I've got two quick things.
Okay.
I sent out to Rachel, it was on Good Morning America, about these drinks that are being put into the stores, convenience stores, that even though Georgia is a non-marijuana state, because the legislators passed the hemp law, that they've put out these drinks. I went in QT. I just wanted to ask all of y'all to drop by and ask if they'll do how they did to me and say, oh, do you want the drink? And I'm like, no. QT was not selling them when I went in the one at Coal Mountain. But the problem with the drinks is that they're THC infused, and they have, where it says they're under the limit 3% is what the law is in Georgia. But the serving size is like 10.5 ounces or 12 ounces. And it says on it that the serving amount is don't drink more than 1.5 ounces.
Oh, jeez.
And so people buy the drink and they're able to get under the rule because it's just like vaping. When the vaping cartridges came out, it's an unregulated industry right now. And so I contacted Greg Dolezal, our senator, and I said, remember when I told y'all to vote against that hemp bill? And y'all said it was for the farmer and you're helping the farmer. Well, guess what? It wasn't ever about the farmer. It was about these products. And so he said, but instead of saying, yeah, I did the wrong thing. It was, but I was part of introducing a bill outlawing these, and it was killed in the Senate, and that the House then didn't let it go through. So I reached out to our House members. I sent 3 of them, and I said, how come Greg Dolezal told me y'all didn't do anything in the House on this? And why? I talked to convenience store owners, and they said, you do understand, or you need to understand, that these drinks that 40% of every drink you sell like this is pure profit for the convenience store, where it's only 8% on a beer.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
like, yeah, but you do understand, we're not talking about profits for the convenience store. We're talking about addiction. And how many people buy any type of drink and regulate themselves to say, oh, I'm in a car, I drove to the convenience store, and I can only drink 1 ounce of this drink.
Mhm.
Never.
Yeah, exactly.
No, never.
It's not
Especially our youth,
realistic.
especially our youth. We've got a dozen by the time they're out of the parking lot.
That GMA story, and Rachel can send it out, I literally sat and recorded it on my phone, so it's, surely there's somewhere it can be found better than my TV with my grandkids' toys are everywhere. It looks, I look like the junkiest person in the world, which I am. Anyway, but it is I think everybody that works with people needs to understand, here comes another thing thrown at us. Here's another thing being thrown at our youth, even though it's underage. You know, so I reached out to Ron Freeman, because when I was on the Board of Commissioners, we got things in place in Forsyth County, which doesn't help anywhere else. That if anything's being sold that's being marketed to get high, if it says THC, if it says, then technically Ron could ask for it to be removed from the shelf. But I went, you know, when you're a commissioner, you've got powers that you don't have anymore when you're not a commissioner. And
But you're still a voter.
I am a voter, and I'm loud. And I don't.
Yeah, I like how you call
I don't. And so I did, Ron, I said, Ron, you're gonna need to get in touch with Ken Gerard, because when I reached out to the county attorney, I don't get the response back because he's not getting paid to talk to me anymore. And I asked him if there was a way that could be enforced in our county to make it be removed, and I haven't gotten an answer yet. But I think if y'all could look, and when you go in a convenience store, see if they've got it on their shelves, it's out there.
What are they called?
They're just THC infused drinks. It might say hemp instead, but it's THC.
Yep, probably some cute happy name too, you know, they make.
Oh, they make it, and it's all done
Jelly
for
bean
kids.
flavors, yeah, exactly.
The colors, the everything, it's just the new thing.
That's interesting, because I just did like a evaluation yesterday, and they said that there was like all these drinks that they found. So that's interesting. I wonder if it wasn't the energy drinks, it might have been those.
And they're dangerous too, but they had a lady that was on some soap opera on this video, and she had not known, she said she didn't know about the ounce and a half. She is so bombed. I mean, like, she is laid over, and I mean, like, visibly wasted.
That's
because of
drinking it in
drinking.
liquid?
So have you heard of kids drinking those drinks?
Yeah.
So they can
They've
find
been
it.
around for like at least 6 months.
Oh, yeah, I'm always late to the
Yeah.
game.
Like, it's right next to the energy drinks.
Yeah.
So like during like AP season and like final season, everyone like goes and buys the energy drinks. And they're right next to like it, like
So they're in stores in
it's in
Forsyth
stores.
County.
Yeah.
Like you can go to the cooler
Well,
and just.
I live
grab
like right next to like the county in Fulton, so even if it wasn't.
Make pictures and send them to Rachel so people can see what they look like. Next time you go in, just snap
Also,
some
gas
pictures.
stations don't ID anymore. Like they're like really bad about it. So I have a lot
So
of
you
friends.
could lose.
I have a lot of friends who just go to Kroger, just buy alcohol, and they just don't care.
What?
Yeah.
They'll say
And
show
that-
your ID.
But I used to be so strict.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still do. If
Yeah.
I were to buy a bottle of wine, it would be,
I don't know
show your
why.
ID.
Like I was so surprised. I was like, "There's no way." 'Cause they're just like, "Yeah, go to Kroger anytime after 7 p.m. and they don't care."
Ron Freeman should know that.
Yeah.
And lastly, and I know it's overtime, I had a situation that happened to me yesterday, and I was sitting here and I thought, I gotta share this. It's not the crazy situation that happened, but how I believe, and I'm not an addict, but I believe this is the way an addict might feel. So y'all tell me if this is a way, you know, when you were in addiction. So yesterday I'm at my house and no, Monday. And I am taking the garbage out, but of course, I'm keeping my 2-year-old grandson. And we get way late, I decided to feed the birds, I squirrel out and I leave my garbage sitting there and I go and we're feeding the birds and then I go get my garbage and I have a garbage can closet. My garbage man pulls up and he gets my garbage out of the closet. And never thought, had it that way. I've lived in my house since 1985 and that closet's been there probably since 1995. Anyway, never thought a thing about it, never had a thought. And I go to put in my bag of garbage, first can's full, second can's full, so I have to walk in a little farther. There's bugs, there's ants, there's, spiders. I didn't think about a snake or I would have died. I didn't see a snake. But I go to put it in the third can and I hear the door close. There's no opener on the inside because no one's ever thought about being inside. My grandson is who slammed the door shut. My grandson is outside. I'm inside. I had noticed, thank goodness, because my kids live next door and that they had closed, my pool gate was closed and I knew that, so I had a little bit of peace about that. But the sheer panic that I felt in that moment, 9 times out of 10, I would not have had my cell phone on me, but I did. It was such a blessing that it was in my hip pocket. And so right next door to me is Mills Fuel Service, which is my ex-husband's business. I did not call my ex-husband, he doesn't go to work, but I called up there and they got there within maybe 5 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, but I kept talking to my grandson. But as we were sitting here, I thought about, I wonder if this is the way people feel when they're in addiction, that they're locked inside a closet and that the whole world is moving to the outside of the closet, but you can't get out. Like you feel the fear, the panic, the desire. I want to be out of the closet. I want to get out, but I can't get out. I don't know how. I looked at there. I thought about climbing up on the trash cans if I could have hoisted my fat body up there, but could I have gotten, we're talking the metal was 10 feet high. Looking after I got out, I could look back on the situation and I could see, well, I could have hoisted myself up on the brick water table if I could have, even though it was so narrow. But then I could have gotten to the lock and I thought the lock was on the right side and it was actually on the left side closer. But just as you were talking, I was thinking about my closet situation and I thought, I bet people, when you're in the throes of addiction, sometimes you don't know how to get out, or you're
It's the
so.
same for the parents.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say, the parents.
And you're trapped and the whole world's moving outside
Yeah.
and you can't, you're almost jealous that
Yes.
people are living their lives and their lives go on and you can't go on and you can't, there's no safety. The fear was, I just kept trying to keep my grandson closer to me. And I guess that's the way it is with a kid. If you can protect a child if you can keep them closer.
Exactly.
And I would knock on the gate, and I'd say, Drew, can you hear me? And I was so afraid that he was gonna go up the steps because it's under the steps and he would fall because I could hear him walking one time and I'd knock on the gate to try to get him back over. And it is like a parent, the sheer fear you feel and you don't have any control. That is the lack of control and trying to get it back anyway. That might be a crazy analogy.
No, it's a perfect analogy, so thanks for sharing that. Wow, claustrophobic feeling too. Oh my God, I'm so claustrophobic, I get sick thinking about it.
Well, and they got there, but the odd thing is he and I I was holding his little hand and we were walking in and, I couldn't get on to him. He didn't even know he'd done anything. He's 2 years old. But just as we were walking to the step, this is how soon a UPS truck pulled up. And I thought, I worried about that. Like I was worried. I would have shouted out, help me. But how many times did they pull up and going 90 miles an hour? just anything could happen.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it worked out great. And it'll be one of those funny stories from.
One day.
Yeah, it will, yeah, after a little while.
Is there a way to put them off?
I'm gonna put a step ladder in there. And it was one of those kind of locks, heavy duty metal, and like it just, when you push it to, it just clamps down. There's no way, I mean, he's this tall, you know, and it was way up high.
Wow.
You don't know until you know.
Yeah.
Very good way to end it up.
Yeah, well, great meeting you guys. Thanks, Marty, for the presentation. We'll send out. Thanks for having a Zoom. And Rachel said she'd send out what you were talking about with the drinks, and yeah, if you guys need anything, just email me.
Yeah, we need to see where they're in.
Bye, Zoom people.